All right, welcome into Michigan State season preview. I'm your host, Joe Chapp. We're going to be talking about Michigan State because obviously this is a huge year for Michigan State. And when you think about things that could potentially happen with Michigan State this year, you got a coach that's in his second year. Okay. He's expected to actually do something. And when you think about the players that you have, like Nick Marsh, you have Aidan Chiles. That's very impressive. Because when we talk about Aidan Chiles, obviously last year was an up and down year, but he showed flashes of what he could potentially be. Um, and look, I've been very keen on Jonathan Smith. I think he's a little bit of he doesn't understand the Michigan State and coaching at Michigan State. And I thought his portal additions have been wish washy. I think there's one that could be really, really good in terms of underrated move. But when you think about Michigan State, like I thought last year, I thought talent won more games than coaching did. And when you originally hired Jonathan Smith, I thought, and I couldn't be more wrong in the first year, but I thought that you were going to get capable head coaching. I thought that you were going to get a coach who actually knew what he was doing. Um, I've laid the blame for the Michigan loss at Jonathan Smith. There were several losses that were in either Jonathan Smith, his offensive coordinator, or his defensive coordinator, Joe Rossi. And look, I know they weren't playing with a full deck of cards, but I did not expect Jonathan Smith to be as negligent as he was in year one. I thought that was a little bit shocking to me. So when you think about Michigan State, and you think about everything that is being said about Michigan State in terms of what are they going to be, when you think about the over under in Vegas being 5.5 wins, I mean, it's a little shocking, but it's not shocking because they're telling you exactly what we know. So more is expected with Michigan State in year two. And I said that in a past video. But let's talk about the season preview. Let's get to it because obviously you look at the biggest strength coming in is going to be the offense. Um, the offense could be special when you think about a guy like Nick Marsh. Nick Marsh is a total dog, total beast. I love the way Nick Marsh plays, and he's going to be a damn good player for Michigan State. And we seen it in the first year. We seen the connection with Aidan Chiles. Aidan Chiles and Nick Marsh, they had a great connection, and they were making plays all over the place. You wanted to get wide receivers around Nick Marsh to help out Nick Marsh and Aidan Chiles. And they did that this year when they got Chrishon McCray from, I think he's from Kent State, and they got Omari Kelly from Middle Tennessee. So look, they got the wide receivers. I watched Chrishon McCray at Kent State. Now, Kent State's a horrible watch. They were absolutely horrible to watch. But when you thought about Kent State, you looked at the wide receivers, a lot of fast wide receivers. They made plays. They did what they were supposed to do. Omari Kelly from Middle Tennessee State, I think he could be a really good wide receiver. All the training camp reports from Spartan camp say that he's going to be a guy who could potentially be a guy who could be the biggest X factor. We'll see. I think Chrishon McCray will be that guy. But when you talk about Michigan State's offense, it all centers around one thing and one thing only. And it's kind of like it was last year, but Stanton Ramil is the only player on this Michigan State line from last year. And this year they got the kid from, I think he's from, where is he from? But they got Matt Golban from, I'm trying to figure out where he's from. I wrote these down. It's the same thing I did with the Michigan preview. Damn it. Matt Golban is a kid from. Damn it, I'm already messing it up. He is a kid from Wake Forest. I knew it was some off the wall school, and that's his X factors. But I think he could be the biggest X factor. So when you look at portal additions, they got Omari Kelly, they got Chrishon McCray, Matt Golban, the guard. I think if you get enough out of these guys, that this could be a very special year for the offense. And I'll explain this because You got Chrishon McCray last year. He was a dynamic slot receiver for Kent State. He had a 74.4 PFF grade. Um, Omari Kelly, he had a 73.5 PFF grade. And Matt Goldman had a 74.1 PFF grade last year. And you think about the losses that you had last year in terms of who did you lose? You lost Chris Bogle to the NFL draft. He was your team. He was the leading pass rusher for Michigan State, and you lost Charles Brantley, who was the top corner for Michigan State. So, and he went to Miami. So, the biggest strength for the Michigan State Spartans is passing attack. This Aidan Chiles kid he's a dual threat passing weapon. Last year, 2,658 yards, 18 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 498 rushing yards, 5 TDs. He had a 84.9 rushing grade, which is best among Power 4 quarterbacks, and passing grade between the numbers, 84.5 in the numbers. Outside the hashes, it was 66.4. So if there's anything that Aidan Chiles can get better, it's throwing on the outside hashes, 66.4 outside the ashes. That's a big drop off. It's a 20-point drop off right there. His weapons are very simple. Jack Velling, I thought, had a really shaky year last year. He's a top 10 nationally at his position. You look at Chrishon McCray, he's an elite separator. Omari Kelly is a reliable possession target. And then you got Nick Marsh, he led the MSU in receiving yards, 649 yards, breakout candidate for being this guy. And with Child's mobility and deeper wide receiver corps, MSU's passing game could vault into the top half of the Big Ten. And that's where I said the offense could be special, because if they could just get that next level, that could be a huge step up in the right direction for Michigan State. So that's what you're going to see right there. But when you look at Michigan State, I think the offense is the biggest thing that you're worried about. You're worried about the offense taking the next step. I thought the offensive line last year wasn't good enough. So when you think about taking that next step, it really boils down to two groups. Your quarterback, Aidan Chiles, and your offensive line led by Stanton Ramiel. And I think Stanton Ramiel could be a guy we could potentially be talking about as a NFL draft pick. So if he wants to be in the NFL draft, this is a really good situation for him to be in, because he's going to have a quarterback that's going to be able to throw the ball. And let's be honest, any throw that Aidan Chiles makes, he can make. He's a fantastic player. He just has to get better with the accurate balls outside the hashes, as I said. That's where he really struggles. And he's got a good tight end. The running back situation is a little bit tense. So we're going to see who can come out of the running back position. That's another thing. Can they get any kind of running game from the running backs? That's going to be the question. But when I look at Michigan State, I think their offense could definitely be special, and that's something to take with you, because Michigan State's offense, there's talent there. In years past, there hasn't been that much talent outside of Nick Marsh, outside of Aidan Chiles. You're thinking about who's going to be helping out this team and helping them win games. Well, now like Omari Kelly could be a really good player for Michigan State. Chrishon McCray, I think he could be a speedster like we've seen with R.J. Shelton, Jaden Reed, guys like that. But Michigan State's offense could be special, and that's the most important thing here. Is if their offense is good, they can potentially get over that 5.5 wins. I think a lot of people are like, 5.5 wins is a little bit too much, too low. But the way Vegas is throwing this in is that when you look at Michigan State, 58% of the money is going to the over. Okay, so they had to balance out the money. So where do you stand? Do you stand on the over? Do you stand on the under? I go on the over, and I'll tell you why later, but that's the most important part. Let's go to the defense, because this is the most important part right here. Defense. Last year, when you looked at Michigan State's defense, it was a huge issue. Their defense was the 5th worst in Power 4 in EPA and pass allowed. Their pass rush grade was 4th worst. Their coverage grade was 5th worst. They lost Charles Brantley. Like I said, they lost Chris Bogle into the draft. and they added, some good guys in the defensive realm. They added Isaac Smith from Texas Tech. They added Devynn Cromwell from Texas Tech. He solidifies depth. That's what they say. Joshua Eaton from a cornerback from Texas State. He's going from a group of 5 school to a Power 4 school. Last year he had 49 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 13 pass breakups. His arrivals bolsters the cornerback rotation immediately. There's other guys that they got. They got Grady Kelly, defensive line, former at Florida State defensive line. Cam Williams, linebacker, Georgia State, transferring offer linebacker depth, and then Tracy Reveals. So look, they didn't get much in the defensive side for the portal, but when you think about their defense, I mean, it was just not good at all. And this is going to be the major question mark of the year. Like, if Michigan State's defense could be relatively good, if they could just be middle average, not like where they are the worst defense in the Power 5, Power 4. Well, now it's a Power 4, but it used to be the Power 5. Maybe they could be a 6-7 win team, maybe perhaps 8-win team. If they're just average, if they're good, if they have some parts of their game where they're good, maybe get to 8 wins, maybe get to 9 wins. But that's where you kind of cap out at. Like, everything has to go right. And I think Michigan State's offense is going to lead the day, but can the defense help them out a little bit? I go back to like last year with the Detroit Lions, right? If you're a Michigan State fan, a Detroit Lions fan, the amount of injuries you had on the defensive side of the ball, in terms of the injuries and all that stuff, you were asked to score 40 points a game, pretty much, to win games. And even when they got to the playoffs, 40 points didn't really matter with the Commanders. So that's kind of the situation you're in with Michigan State. Like, if you get to 40 points, are you going to win the game? If you get to 30 points, are you going to win the game? Can your defense just do enough? And obviously, Michigan State's defense isn't injured. It's just lack of talent. They don't have the talent to compete on a schedule basis. And when you look at their schedule, I mean, like, you look at Western Michigan, Youngstown State, Boston College, you go to Indiana, you go to Iowa. Those are 2 tough games. I think who knows what Indiana is going to be. You play Michigan, Maryland, Penn State's automatic loss. Who knows what UCLA is going to be, at Minnesota, at Nebraska. Those 3 games end of season are brutal. Hopefully you can do something with those. But you look at it, you go, Western could be is a win. Youngstown State's a win. And, then you look at the rest of the schedule and you're like, okay, we're really going to have to make some games up. So you look at Boston College, that could be a huge swing game. Indiana could be a huge swing game. Iowa could be a huge swing game. So you look at those first 5 games. If you could potentially win all 5 of those, you're on a good track to be where you're supposed to be. But again, it's going to come down to the defense. The defense is a huge question mark of the whole thing. And their pass defense last year wasn't good. And they didn't add anybody to the transfer portal that you're like, wow, this guy's really going to transform our defense. Jordan Hall is back. I think the safeties could be pretty damn good. I think Malik Spencer could potentially be a guy that you could think about in the NFL draft. Nakai Martinez, I think, could be a potential guy you could think about in the NFL draft. But when you look outside of it, there's a lot to be said. I think Wayne, there's some good players, but Rossi really has to coach well. I think this is the most important year for Jonathan Smith and that coaching staff. And you can't have another year like you had last year. You simply just can't. I don't think it was all talent. I think it was more coaching. And we're going to see what Michigan State is as a defensive unit, because look, you could say it's a talent, but I can't say it's a talent when I see guys like Jordan Hall on this side of the ball, and I see Malik Spencer, who people are talking about as a guy who could potentially be an NFL draft pick. Okay, I can't sit here and say that they should be 4th worst in Power 4. just doesn't make much sense to me. So you look at the portal additions that they made to the team: Isaac Smith, Joshua Eaton on the defensive side of the ball. Those are what you talk about right there. So let's get to the X factors. Let's get to the X factors, because these could be potentially the huge X factors that could change the Michigan State football season. And when you think about Michigan State, the offensive line is going to be a huge thing for the offense. So I think Matt Golban shoring up the inside of that offensive line could be a huge portion to what Michigan State could potentially be when we talk about Michigan State and that offense. And obviously, Aidan Chiles. Look, Aidan Chiles is really good last year. We all know he was. But outside the hashes, those throws you have to make to stop the clock and do things like that, he wasn't good. 64.5 PFF grade outside the hashes. So that has to get better with Aidan Chiles. And if he just gets a little more time in the pocket, I think he'll be good. But I think a lot of it last year was him running for his life and trying to figure out things. And I think he lacked accuracy. But look, he came over with Jonathan Smith from Oregon State, so there's no excuse not to really do it. And I thought last year Jonathan Smith did Chiles a disservice, because when you think about Aidan Chiles, there was a lot of deep shots he threw, a lot of deep shots. And I think that if Michigan State can just get Chiles in the rhythm, some slants, some underneath throws, maybe he can get going, get some confidence, and then it leads to him being better on the outside throws, and that's what you want to do right there. So that'll be huge for the Michigan State Spartans. But when you talk about X factors, you look at a guy like this. Isaac Smith and Joshua Eaton will be two major defensive X factors for the Michigan State Spartans, because look, who knows what the rest of the team is going to be. I think Chance Rucker could be really good for the cornerback position, but this Joshua Eaton kid, I think he could be really good. Now he's coming from Texas State, so there's going to be a little bit of a transition period to a group of Power 4 school, from the group of 5 to the Power 4. But I think he can do pretty well. And when you think about the schedule coming up, I mean, he's going to be playing 3 straight schools where he's going to be playing 2 group of 5 schools and 1 Power 4 school. And I think that could be a major thing for him. So when you talk about Michigan State, I think those 2 guys from the portal could be potential X factors, because they need all the help they can get. I think Malik Spencer is going to be good. I think Nakai Martinez is going to be good. Jordan Hall is going to be good. Ellington's going to be good. Who is going to help out those guys? That's the major question. So let's move on. Let's talk about the prediction now. Here is the biggest question mark: the defense. The biggest plus is the wide receiver. And when I think about making a prediction for Michigan State, the defense being a major question mark is not something that I really want to make a big prediction on. It kind of sucks, to be honest, but I think Michigan State could be good. And when you think about the schedule, if they could just find their groove early on, 3-0, you go play Indiana, you go play Iowa. Iowa can't score. Who knows what Indiana is going to be potentially? Maybe you can be 4-1. You play Maryland at Ford Field, 5-1. You play 2 tough games, Michigan, Penn State. Those are going to be tough games no matter what. Michigan's always a tough game. Maybe you win one of those. But UCLA, Minnesota, Nebraska, UCLA, and USC, Nebraska could be definitely a good team. Who knows what USC is going to be? There's so many question marks beyond Michigan State when you look at that schedule. So what do I think? So here's what I think. The ceiling could be 9-3. The ceiling could be 9-3. Now, when you say 9-3 with Michigan State, what do you mean? It means the defense got a lot better, whether it's coaching, whatever the case may be, it got a lot better. Defense got a lot better. Aidan Chiles got a lot better throwing on the outside hashes. Offensive line did their job. That's all you can ask for this year for Michigan State, because 9-3 would be a huge step up for Michigan State. It would be a huge step up. So 9-3 is a huge portion to that. Now, when we look at The floor, 5-7. That's the floor. Like anything else than 5-7, and Johnson Smith should be fired. That's just the way it is. You think about Johnson Smith, 5-7 would be a total embarrassment, to be honest. Because with the quarterback you have, the wide receiver you have, if you can't get the most out of these guys, we got problems. There's guys on the defensive side of the ball I have really high hopes on. But if you win 5 games and lose 7, just end it. End it. Fire them. That's the way it should be with the Michigan State Spartans. So let's go back to it. I think the offensive MVP will be Aidan Chiles, Malik Spencer, the defensive MVP, and I think the team X factor will be Chrishon McCray. And I say that because I think he could be a very useful weapon for Aidan Chiles when you're talking about maybe perhaps being on the run, speedster wide receiver, get some key first downs. I like the way Michigan State did the portal for the offense. I did not like the way they did the portal for the defense. We're going to see what the defense actually does because, look, they play Western Michigan in the first game, and I think there's some Western Michigan Broncos that could really put a considerable amount of damage to Michigan State's defense if they're not that great. So we'll see what's going to happen this Friday. But as always, we're going to be talking about it in this JC Sports Detroit page. So follow along, subscribe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video as we talk more Michigan State football and Detroit sports here on JC Sports.